The following is a conversation. It has the features of any conversation, such as imperfectly expressed thoughts, ill-considered opinions, and the notions of several sleep-deprived brains. Try not to get your stethoscope in a twist about it.
It's been a busy week for me, and I confess that I'm tired.
Sure.
Is that an internet meme that...
It's old, but it checks out.
But you recognize it. Okay,
it's an old code, sir, but it checks out.
Which of you... Actually, I'm just going to ask. Rachel, switch with me and host the show.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, just switch with me and host.
I just started sweating.
No, I've got...
Are you for real?
I've got it all written out.
Oh, dear.
I've got it all written out. There are some things that you might have to... like a fill in the blank kind of thing, like a name kind of situation.
Terrifying.
Rachel, this is so exciting. Congratulations.
Do you want to do
This
it?
is
No.
this yeah. You don't have to do anything. You just have to sit here. And I did.
Just putting that out there.
But I didn't do it purposefully to lie to you. I just kind of came up with this at the last minute.
I don't know how to work these.
You don't have to do nothing.
Okay.
He did tell us that he had a plan for this chair, and I couldn't sit there, so. This is obviously the plan.
You could have taken a nap.
Oh my god.
Oh my.
Wow, we have reached new levels.
I didn't know bringing a blanket was an option.
I got this out of Macau, and they won't miss it. Thanks, Rachel. I appreciate it.
You legitimately wrote, I'm tired.
Yeah, I did. That's how it works. Lift up your microphone a little bit. Yeah. More? There you go. Now speak into it. This is a historic moment. I have never given up.
You spelled my last name wrong.
Oh, wow.
Never given up this seat before.
He immediately regrets it.
he blows past that, keeps moving on.
I told you I'm tired.
He's just trying to really lean into the lay tired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I really am tired. I really am. Take a minute to look over the situation there, if you like.
I'm writing something down that I meant to tell you earlier. It's a funny thing, but I can talk about it here too.
I don't mind. It's your show.
Okay.
So
Do I read this?
Yeah.
This styrofoam cup is bothering me.
Jesus. I didn't know I was handing it over just to a prima donna.
Oh my God.
This styrofoam cup.
Meandering in the margins of medicine, it's the Shortcoat Podcast.
Weird news,
fresh views,
helpful clues, and interviews.
By students, for students.
Subscribe to our weekly show at theshortcoat.com.
Welcome back to the Shortcoat Podcast, the show that gives you an inside look at medical school from the students drinking from that fire hose, a production of the University of Iowa Carver College of Medicine. I am Rachel Shulista. I didn't know I was doing this today, and with me today in the Shortcoat studio, he's always more prepared than I could ever be. It is M3 Jeff Goddard.
That is a lie.
She's ready to go. It's M2 Taryn O'Brien.
HOTTOGO.
Yeah, there you go.
She has herself together. She's recently engaged. I just added that part. It's M2 Fallon Jung.
Yay.
Congratulations, by the way.
On the other side of the table, under a Holstein cow blanket, is your regular host, Dave Etler.
I might do this.
Lay tired.
Yeah, I might do this every week. Feel like
this is fun. You look like you're really excited.
I'm
right
so
now.
happy right now. Rachel's pissed.
No, I'm not pissed.
Okay,
I was just reading your description of me because I was originally where you were sitting.
Yeah.
Her life is carefully crafted. Her life is a carefully crafted and curated masterpiece, which is super false.
I know. It's all...
I know, he says.
None of this is... Anyway, thank you for allowing me to do this, Rachel. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. You owe me. So what I was going to tell you earlier is I was watching a TikTok earlier. You know who Zach Galifianakis is?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So I'm watching Only Murders in the Building,
Yeah.
season 4.
Yeah.
Okay. And he
No
is,
spoilers, please.
I won't, but he is in it. He is like, he is in that season. And I haven't seen him since like The Hangover.
Oh,
and he
wow.
plays a very different character than he did in The Hangover. So I was like, wait, is this really Zach Galifianakis? And it is. And so then I was on TikTok and I somehow on my algorithm came up this sort of podcast or comedy skit thing that he does. It's called Between Two Ferns.
You've never seen Between Two Ferns?
Oh, am I late to this party?
That is
oh my gosh.
shocking.
Literally right before
Obama went
sorry,
on it
guys.
when he was
No
president
way.
of the United States.
Oh, this
Matthew
isn't new?
McConaughey?
No, literally.
We literally did our
Yeah,
frolics
frolic
thing
skit.
based on Between Two Ferns last year.
Okay, I'm so late to this, so never mind. But
It's kind of a niche.
Yeah.
humor.
But
Yeah.
right, literally like 5 minutes ago, I was like laughing hysterically
It's so good.
at the Paul Rudd one
Yes.
Oh, that's a good one.
and then the John Hamm one.
Yeah.
So freaking
the Brie
funny.
Larson one slays me.
Oh, she okay.
Slays me. She
okay.
does so well.
You got to look up the bloopers too.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then he like set the fire alarms with the sprinklers with Matthew McConaughey. Oh my gosh, it was so funny. So I was like, what if you did something like that? And again, I'm so late to this, so maybe
Strong
it's irrelevant.
recommend from Rachel to go look up Between Two Ferns if you haven't heard of it.
Yeah.
Also, where do I watch it regularly?
Prime. All of them are on Prime.
Oh, really?
Oh, YouTube also has them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like, Prime has them like in order, so
Yeah.
it's kind of easy to just like not miss any.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Thanks for sharing.
It's okay. You're just, you're not
this
up with
thing
the
that we've
times.
never
Like,
heard of
from 10
8
years
years
ago.
late or
At
more.
least.
Yeah. Obama went on there to talk about the ACA, so that was like 2010. I don't know.
Oh.
It's all right. You did your
Long
best.
time ago.
Okay, so weird because Zach Galifianakis then, like essentially 15 years ago, looks just like he does now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good
He
for him.
ages gracefully.
Yeah. He is unchanged.
Yeah.
Bastard.
Yeah.
Good for
Right?
him.
Yeah. My friend sent me a picture. She got these new sunglasses and she had her hand on her hip in the bathroom mirror wearing these sunglasses. And she goes, do you like these? And should I keep them? And I sent her the gif of Zach in the elevator with the baby strapped to him from The Hangover. And I was like, these are those sunglasses. And she immediately returned them. Okay. Dave, how do I know whose co-host won?
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
It's you.
Okay. So, Dave, what do you think would happen if every listener went to Apple Podcasts and gave us a 5-star rating and a quick review?
Well, first of all, I think that I would be amazed. I would cry probably with joy if people did that. But also, I think it would put us at the top of the charts.
Probably.
I don't know for sure because Apple doesn't tell us how it works. But I feel strongly that it's a good experiment to do. So I feel like, that would be a useful experiment.
For sure.
Science. For science.
Yeah.
That's science.
We do everything.
Yeah.
Science.
Yeah.
So, listeners, please rate us on Apple Podcast and leave us a 2-word review. I almost
It doesn't
said
have to be 2 words. It doesn't have to be 2 words. It could be, I feel like it could be more words, but I don't want to overburden people.
You just put cow blanket.
Yeah, but not a 1-word review. That is like
No, because I would like to leave open the possibility that if we sucked for some reason, that they could also find a second word that would be like sucked fun.
Oh, that's bad.
Or it
Sucked
could be
fun is
just
bad.
Yeah, that's
used.
not the best. It's not the best choice I could have made there.
Kind of like pretty ugly, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
These are good
Sucked
suggestions
information
for
through the fire hose.
these are good suggestions for your reviews.
So, please give Dave some major redemption
Yeah.
and rate and review
Yeah.
and get the short coat to the top.
That'd be fantastic. Oh man, that would be so cool.
Then we
It
could
would
get that
be.
Menards endorsement we've been wanting
Will
for so
you-
long.
Oh, yeah.
Menards.
She really wants us to have a Menards. She
likes
wants 12% rebate out of it.
Oh my
If you saw how much money I spent at Menards in the last 3 months, you would understand.
Didn't you just say you got a vanity from Lowe's?
Yeah, that's just
Oh,
because I had to go there to
shit.
get very specific shark bite Pexe fittings for plumbing stuff.
Love that.
And Menards doesn't carry those.
Oh, they sell them at Ace often. Yeah.
Ace is expensive.
Well, but it's family owned.
Screw Ace.
Yeah, like Menards is the go-to unless if we need something very, very specific brand name.
I'm so excited to be on this side. I can say whatever I want.
I mean, you shouldn't, but you can.
I can. Yeah.
You can always
feels like I
yourself
can.
out.
I love this. Okay.
Great. So Fallon, we understand that you have some pre-recorded questions in your phone that you never asked us before you started medical school.
Okay, so here's what's up. I did as of this morning, and then I listened to it, and I was like, this bitch is so wordy. So I distilled the information down into some notes here, and I'm just going to say it.
Why didn't you send us the questions?
Why didn't I send you the question? Because I was anxious.
She's not willing to embrace the cringe.
I literally
that is
have
her
the
past
worst
self.
anxiety. It's so bad.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I can
really.
sympathize.
Yeah.
I'm well medicated these days. I feel like I've got this shit down now.
I probably should be medicated, but I've been trying.
Dose is right.
I don't know, Ron.
Yeah, I've like found the right dose and balance of all my medications, and I'm just like, we are not messing with this within the realm of an active school session.
Yeah, but look, medication doesn't need to be the answer. It's up to you.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Running works like okay-ish if I do it every day.
Yeah.
And you have the freedom to like reword these questions however you want.
That's true.
That's
and
true.
now we don't have to listen
Are
to
they
my voice recorded. That's like
okay.
That's the best part.
Yeah, nobody likes a recorded voice.
No.
Nobody will.
Nobody's going to listen to your recorded voice.
Right. That's
with
not
this podcast.
I've never listened to a single one of these episodes that I've been on. I refuse.
And I'm there with you.
Nor should you. Nor should our listeners. Don't listen. Anyway.
Wow, we're sending them a lot of mixed messages.
Signals here.
Yeah,
Dave.
we have reached a new
I'm
level
unfettered.
of chaos.
This episode is brought to you by Paradox.
I'm unfettered. Go ahead. But
so we have I have not. We have talked about you have talked about this a little bit on the podcast before, like years ago. And there was a time before I started medical school that I listened to the podcast a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I love the podcast. Anyway, so you guys read a article called How Doctors Die by Ken Murray. I actually wanted to get him on the podcast last year, and he said no. Anyway.
He said no.
Well, they said he doesn't do podcasts or something.
2-word reviews.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah,
that's actually totally possible.
Yeah. Okay, go on.
Okay.
Anyway, but he talks about how when doctors die, they often choose to, quote unquote, go gently, which is like, just not doing the absolute most to keep your body alive. But when a doctor is being a doctor, they often do the most to keep their patients alive.
Yeah.
Even if that means that they're not, going to be, like, they'll be physically alive, right? Their hearts will be beating, like, maybe their brains will be working in some aspects, but not in the same way that you and I might call living.
Sure.
Anyway, so my question is, what is a good doctor? What is a doctor's job in that sense? And how can we reasonably get more hospice type training in hospice training in training so that, I don't know, we can help people die better?
So I have an answer for this as somebody who...
Shocking.
Yeah, annoying. This guy. As somebody who's been on clinical rotations,
yes,
we get hospice training.
Right,
in fact, I went and worked in a hospice as part of my clinical rotations, and then had them give me really long lectures.
Is it like a required thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was incredibly useful to see that side of it. I actually wrote I cried a lot that day. I'm going to be honest with you.
Which clerkship was it?
That was part of my family medicine clerkship.
Oh, okay. I hadn't heard that before.
So
Weird.
that said, it might be more of a Des Moines cohort thing than it is here in Iowa City.
Fair. Yeah.
But that said, training exists, and I think that at least here we're getting better. Mm-hmm. I've never been a practicing doctor in Boston. Maybe they suck at this. I don't know. But my gut tells me that younger physicians are better at this than older physicians, like a lot of things. But that said,
hot take.
It's just medicine changes.
Medicine changes.
Funeral at a time, right? Just like any culture.
Oh yeah.
Like the guy that decided that turns out you treat stomach ulcers with antibiotics instead of, going to take a nap and stop being stressed. he was right, but it took a long time for everybody else to agree with him, right? Like medicine changes slowly, unfortunately.
Oops.
That said, I think that the answer here is just you have to be exposed to it.
Yeah.
And you have to consider what you would want. I think that, I don't know, I think it's an underrated question that doctors can pose to themselves as they're talking to their patients is, if I was in this situation, what would I want for myself or my loved ones?
Yeah.
Instead of, this is my medical advice. They're too busy like CYA and not enough compassion and humanity.
What does CYA
Have
mean?
you, cover your ass.
Thank you.
Have you had to do goals of care discussions?
Yeah.
I guess they metaphorically call it.
Yeah, and especially like on family medicine, which is a phenomenal field, 10 out of 10 recommend to everybody. But you have elderly patients, even ones that are doing well, and you say, hey, look, you're approaching 90. You're not going to live forever. Nobody does. You figure out the wording that works best for your patient. That sentence might fly really well with somebody, might not with somebody else. But hey, why don't we start having a conversation? In fact, here are some papers, here's some questions that you can think about. And then I just want you to put these on your refrigerator. In case for whatever reason, one of you goes down in the home and you have to get EMT, they are looking for this pink paper that says, I don't want to be intubated, or I do, right? So we're having those conversations in primary care well before we get to a point where they're immediately relevant, which I think is what we need to be doing.
I tell you what, my father made it well known what he wanted, and the decision was, I won't say easy, but it was clear what the decision should be for us.
He was a PA.
And he was a PA, yep. And he had a protracted period of illness at the end of his life where he just was deteriorating and he wasn't feeling well and all this kind of stuff. And, he made it clear actually all throughout his life, he would always say like, just put a silver bullet in me.
With that voice?
I mean, that's the voice I use for my dad in my head. My daughters use the same voice for me. So
it's a generational thing.
Yeah, it's definitely
it's genetic.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess the point is like he, as a medical person, also did not have this like feeling for himself that he wanted, heroic measures and all that kind of stuff. He just wanted to, be allowed to move on.
I think the hard thing for a lot of patients is that providers are scared with uncertainties. And I don't want to sound harsh, but like I have heard so many providers talking to patients around a new diagnosis where they use words like typically and probably or likely or maybe, and the patient's sitting here like, I don't know what any of those mean. Typically means something differently to you than it does to me. Maybe to me typically means 80%, and for you typically means 95%. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Like, how are you really helping this patient understand what are the risks of this treatment? What are the success rates for this treatment? Like, give me something that I can hang a hat on here. Because otherwise, I can't really make a good decision. I'm just going to go off of the emotional vibes that you're giving off.
Yeah.
You're not giving me information. But they're doing that because they're afraid that if they're too sure, then they can't CYA, right?
In my dad's case, I had to, I wasn't able to be present when he passed because it was very sudden. The physician I spoke to on the phone said, we can keep him alive, but he's probably not going to be the person that you knew. And I was like, yeah, that's a pretty clear statement. Yeah. So in contrast to what you're saying, I mean, yeah, she threw in probably.
Yeah. But to you, that felt like that was enough to feel, okay,
yeah.
This is not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think even taking this like further back from before even the doctor's office is just as a society, it's so hard to talk about death, especially if it's something that you've experienced a lot of. And it's a natural feeling to feel like, oh, if I talk about this, am I like bringing it on or like welcoming premature death and things like that? But the reality is I think just as a society, we need to accept that death care is a very important thing. Talking about your wishes and your intentions with your family and getting things in order as soon as possible. Even if you're 30, just had your first kid, you're healthy, having all of that in place really is a great final gift for anyone that you love. Because then it takes care of you don't have the fights
Mm-hmm.
over like, oh, who gets the jewelry, who gets this and that. Like it's all cleared out and there's no question of was this their wish. And same with healthcare. Like I worked for the Iowa Alliance Eye Bank for about 1.5 years recovering corneas. So, dealt with a lot of death there. And with that, even in that role, there were still so many times that I was like, I wish that this family had taken the time to discuss some of this stuff beforehand, because death is hard and stressful as it is. And taking away all these other, like adding all these other elements into it just makes it that much harder. So like my parents were probably like, what happened to you those first few holidays? I was home after working for that. No, and I asked them point blank. I'm just like, which for some people, it doesn't work well this way, but my family's very much just get to the point, ask about it, talk about it. And so I was just like, hey, what is your guys' plans for when you pass? Like, what's happening with the family farm? Like, are things going into a trust? Is it being divided? Like, are you going to work through a lawyer? Do you have specific like burial requests? Do you want to be cremated? Do you care if you're cremated? Do you care if you're in a casket kind of thing? And like, I've even told, like, I'm a ripe old 27 years, but even I've had that conversation before of just like, I just want to be thrown in the ground to decompose. Like, I don't need a casket. I don't need anything else.
Christine and I have talked about that too. She wants one of them Franciscan monks. What are the Trappist monk
in Dubuque?
Yeah, in Dubuque. She wants one of those.
My dad does too.
Wait, what?
They're basically like pine boxes, basically.
Okay.
They're beautifully made.
They're very nicely made, but they're also not like designed to keep you perfectly preserved in a box in the ground.
There's not like velvet pillows inside.
Right.
Yeah.
It's good basic shit,
I told my wife to roll me in a ditch, but she keeps saying that's not legal. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah, she might have a point.
Yeah. My dad handed me a flash drive and was like, when we die, this is what you need. And I was like,
whoa.
I wish
I want to throw up.
My mom went
no, that's bad.
My mom, every time we go to visit, she's like, in this drawer, every single time, in this drawer, she's got it all planned out.
I swear, Dave, if you can't remember where that drawer is,
I literally cannot remember where the drawer is. I know it's there though, so that's fine.
There's a drawer. I know it is.
I'll find it.
They've told me like everything is in the file cabinet, and I'm just like, guys, that's a massive file cabinet.
There are a lot of files.
Like, do you know how many old tax returns you have in there? Like, I don't want to be sorting through that.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. You know it's there. Just yeah.
Hey, Fallon, what else you got?
Well,
we got a little off track there.
I think so. Taryn brought up a really good point. Like, it's super hard to talk about death for sure. Like, it even gives me like kind of so maybe not for everybody, but for some people, for a lot of people, I think. And like, even right now, it kind of gives me like just discomfort, right? Because like, I can't tell if I'm scared or I'm sad or like whatever the case is, right?
Yeah, it's a
and all of us are a little superstitious, so we're like, are we inviting this, thinking about it? It's like, bring the thoughts and positivity that you want in the world, and kind of in the same way, we're like, if I'm talking and thinking about death, am I manifesting it?
Sure,
like, that inherent concern.
And I think that a lot of people go into medicine or healthcare in general because they want to specifically save people, right? Like their whole deal isn't like, oh yeah, I'm going here to like help people die, for the most part. Anyway, so I wonder, should doctors be required to have some sort of like mental health check-in with somebody regularly, right? So like, should you have required therapy as a doctor?
Ooh.
I'm gonna go ahead and say no, but here's why.
Okay.
Doctors have too many requirements as is. You like, doctors are on the brink, and then their hospital says, you got to go do your wellness module. Like, no, just stop making them do even more things.
Different than therapy.
That's true, but if you're saying like, this is your job mandated therapy, like, how many of them are going to be
psyched about that?
Yeah.
Willing participants.
That's fair.
You can see how that might be worse than not doing anything at all if you're forced to go and you're resenting it, and it ends up just not being a great situation for a lot of people.
Well, I think more than that, like, even if we implemented free on-site therapists available 7 days a week, because that's another really big barrier for healthcare providers is like, even if they want to seek it out. Yeah, it's like getting there, scheduling it, because it's difficult to find therapists outside of working hours. And especially if you want them to like, couples therapy, things like that. And so it's just...
Well, it's like what we have here in the College of Medicine. We have the counseling center. You can just pop in. You may not be able to walk in and get an appointment right now because other students are using the service, but the availability is pretty good.
Yeah. And it's embedded.
Yeah, it's embedded. That's my point. Like, right, exactly.
So
and there's a reason it's embedded, because med school is a high stress environment, and a hospital is the same way. Or, any medical practice is the same way. It can be very high stress, and I think that I think maybe not required, but it should be highly available.
This is more a question for Jeff. Do you think that there are any healthcare systems out there that are already either mandating or having some sort of very open or like highly recommended, you have to do this therapy type thing for doctors?
I would think, and like this isn't necessarily a black and white situation, but as a general rule, like hospitals that are talking about burnout a lot, if somebody is requiring therapy, you have to wonder, what kind of work environment are you creating that you feel like all of your employees need therapy? And that might be a hospital system that I would avoid in the first place.
Maybe, but
that's like a general rule for doctors or even residents. When they walk into a lounge and they see a wellness book on the table, they're like, oh no, I'm in trouble here. They're beating us up that they feel like they have to say this, instead of just giving us a life that we don't have to recover from burnout from, if that makes sense.
I think in my mind, whenever I think of therapy in a healthcare space, it's not the burnout so much as we're dealing with really difficult, heavy things. We're there for the best days of people's lives and the worst. And sometimes, at least for me personally, like I have a hard time kind of separating at times. And there's times where I'm better at separating and times where I'm not. And so for me, like it would be comforting knowing that whenever I'm having like cyclical feelings of I could have done more or something like that, that service would be available for me. Like I agree, like just self-help books sitting on tables, for me, I'm looking at that and I'm just like, it's not fiction. I don't want to read it.
I think Jeff is referring specifically to this wellness program be sort of push on like, oh, you should go meditate. You should, do this, that, and the other thing. You should exercise more. You should, like,
because they don't want to spend the money on like the actual effective services.
Right.
It's not just that. It's the you worked 14 hours for the last 14 days every single day. Oh, and also you have to do this 3-hour wellness module. Otherwise you can't work anymore. Yeah. Like you're adding a burden. Yeah. You're not actually helping. Yeah. And that's my concern when I see things like those types of requirements is this a burden being added or are they actually helping the provider?
I like the idea of having, like you said, embedded in the system, basically somebody who, is aware of what's going on in your unit and who, when it's clear that you've had a tough situation occur or based on referral, would stop by and say, hey, I just want you to know I'm here. I know that this happened. I'm totally willing to talk about it.
I think it would be entirely reasonable. Like 24/7 seems like a bad idea. Mostly I'm thinking we don't want the therapist to become the person that's just burnt out so much. That
Yeah. That's fair.
I think it'd be a reasonable solution, just off the top of my head, would be if you've got a team that's worked on a very difficult case, right?
Yeah.
Somebody on the team submits a notification to the, let's say, in-house therapy department, and that triggers that everybody on the team gets at least a message, a reach out that, hey, we know that you've gone through something difficult recently. If you want to talk, we're here. Here are our hours where we can, work with you. And that way it's more of an invitation instead of like a required thing, Because I don't want it to be an extra burden on the physician. I keep
But how can we make money off of this idea, Jeff? That is the central question.
I just want to throw a rock at that idea. Not you, but that idea.
Just want to throw a rock at you.
You're right, but also like time and time again, if we're just going to be economical about this, I don't want to be too Simon Sinek-y about things, but like the better you take care of your employees, the better your services are for everybody. So like you have less turnover, you have less bad interactions with patients, happy doctors get sued less.
Yeah.
That's just a fact of life. So like it is in the interest of the bottom line, but I'm not going to make that argument to anybody because it makes me feel like I need a shower.
All right.
So another thing that I wonder about is like, so something along the lines of, okay, like you've had a really hard time and like this really hard case, right? We want you to know that there's a therapist available. I think a lot of the time we have students, doctors, we have a hard time with being vulnerable, especially in the workplace and especially in a place where you are the fixer, right? So I guess part of the reason why I wonder about that like mandatory thing, I get what you're saying about the added burden, but is just normalizing going to therapy in the first place.
But I can also see it normalizing, like culturally normalizing, everybody blows it off, right? Everybody knows that they're going to go in this session and blow it off, and therefore nobody's taking it seriously, you know?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, one of the things though that they do here that I think is like very useful, although I haven't noticed it recently. Anyway, not the point. Because we have that, like the Medical Student Counseling Center, I want to say they put time on our calendar as first years, and they were like, come by and like basically just meet us for this like 15 minutes, just so you have basically broken down the barrier of coming in to see us and you know what it's like. And when you're struggling, you're not having to deal with the fact that you're walking into the first place and like heaven forbid somebody sees you and like all of those additional things.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you get everybody to walk in, then it's like
there's
not
less
such
of
a
a
barrier.
there's less of a scary like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen when I get there.
Right. Or like I'm admitting that something is wrong if you're doing it every time.
Yeah.
Right. And
Makes sense to me.
That's my thought. But I don't know. I mean, I guess I never really thought of the thing of having an additional burden, but at the same time, like it's very clear that doctors are either burnt out or, you know, just not doing very well. And so how do we build up those skills, I guess is my question.
My first like and most important thought is
we'll decide if it's important.
Okay, that's fair. I'll take that. My first thought, which may or may not be important or useful, is that if you want to fix these problems, you have to be able to give doctors lives that they don't dread.
That's
you know,
fair.
and it doesn't necessarily matter that this is an incredibly difficult job.
Yeah.
So much as it's an incredibly difficult job, and it just keeps piling on, right?
And maybe we're not allowed to do the job that we thought we were supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's this whole moral injury discussion around burnout. And, you know, is it really my job is hard, or is it that I can't do the things that I know I need to do for my patients?
Yeah.
Because insurance, because paperwork, because hospital politics,
because we're understaffed. Like one of the okay, I don't know if you guys know what the concept of just-in-time staffing is. I think that it's immoral in the best situation. But imagine that you own, say, a fast food restaurant that shall not be named. It doesn't matter. And you have used algorithms and data to track when your lunch rush is. And so you only have employees come in for those 2 hours. But that employee has to be available to be on call this entire day, or they only get their schedule the day before, always. That person cannot live a good life, right? It's not possible for them to get another job. It's not possible for them to plan on, you know, going to their kids' Little League game because they have to be on call.
Right, they're waiting. Yeah.
But they're also not working and making money, right? So they're stuck there. It's not fair, right? Now imagine doing that to nursing staff. And imagine, because hospitals are doing that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, that's a real thing. Just-in-time staffing already exists in medicine, and it is bad. It should not be that way. I don't think that we're doing it to doctors yet, but like...
Well, is that like being on call?
It's different than being on call in the sense that like call schedules are usually like scheduled out like months, right?
Yeah.
So you know, like I know when I'm going to be on call. I was on OBGYN for the last month and a half, and I knew which days I was on call this entire month and a half, and I could plan for it, right?
Yeah.
And then the days that I wasn't on call, I could live my life.
Sure.
But if you can't plan for it because you may or may not be on call, and all of a sudden we're changing the schedule like 2 days in advance, 1 day in advance, that's not fair to anybody. And it's not a good way to create an environment where somebody's going to be healthy, even if we do mandate they go to therapy.
Sure.
We need to make sure that their life is not something that they're going to dread when they wake up in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, that's totally fair. But then my question is, like, what, like, that is a systemic change, right? Like, that's something that is going to take a long time to, like, potentially could take a long time to change. And so while people are suffering right now, what do we do to help them?
That's fair, but I mean, mandating therapy would also be a systemic change. So it's like...
That's true.
Yeah.
Touche.
Touche, Jeff. Touche.
Can I throw something out that I've been thinking about? Is that cool?
That's what this is.
This feels like a good time to do it. I was thinking about like specialties recently because I'm most of the way through my required clinical rotations at this point, and I'm on OBGYN right now, which is a blast. But here's the thing, for anybody considering like, how do I figure out what specialty I want to do? Every specialty has highs, every specialty has lows. And then you have the day-to-day. You have the bread and butter. I don't think anybody should be making decisions based off of bread and butter alone. Like most of the time, for example, in OBGYN, I'm going to have patients that are coming in that they're just pregnant. I got 40 weeks and I'm going to see them every several weeks for 40 weeks. And it's going to be a 15-minute visit. Baby's healthy. I'll see you next week, whatever, right? That's bread and butter. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's an enjoyable experience. The highs are you get to deliver babies, right? Or you get to help somebody prevent a gynecological cancer, which is phenomenal. Or you get to solve somebody's period pains that they've been having for 20 years and nobody's ever taken them seriously, and now they don't have those problems anymore. Those highs are great. But the lows for me in this particular specialty are unacceptable. I cannot day-to-day handle the lows of this. There is no phrase in the English language that hurts my heart more than intrauterine fetal demise. That's it. I'm done. I crushed, right? Yeah. And now I know that. I can't do OBGYN because the lows do not outweigh the highs for me.
Right.
Or they overweigh the highs, right? I can't get over them. But another specialty, maybe like the lows are there, but the highs are worth it, that I'm willing to go into that specialty. And the bread and butter is good enough that I'm going to enjoy that specialty. So I've been thinking a lot about like, what are the highs and lows of these specialties that we're experiencing that are just things that we need to take into account and weigh them against each other along with the bread and butter. I don't know. That was my thought. Babies are freaking cute though, not gonna lie.
They are. I hear you, but not for everybody.
Yeah, they come out, they immediately poop on their mom.
Yeah, guys, I agree.
Taryn can't breathe. Yeah.
I mean,
are you opposed to babies, Taryn? Are you opposed to them as a concept?
She's just like, I just don't want there to be any of them.
We're not here to hate on Taryn.
Once they're like a toddler, I'm all about it. But really?
To be fair, many parents feel the same way.
Is it because you think they're fragile?
No, it's just
because if you've ever seen a forceps assisted delivery, you're like, okay, maybe not that fragile.
No,
you know what I mean?
just like, they just don't do anything for me.
Okay,
that's fair.
They don't do anything for anybody if it helps.
No,
they're just there.
Cats.
You have to, for like a period of time. Rachel, you can verify this, but I feel like for a period of time, pretty early on, you have to be content with how they look. Because they don't do much. And what they do...
Some people disagree.
They do.
What they do. They do a lot. And
they do a lot.
So, and most of that is unpleasant.
But then they giggle, and you're just like...
Yeah.
It's like having a dog that slowly learns how to talk. Yeah, it's fantastic.
I also think you're like very biased, which same.
Yeah.
I'm speaking for myself, but I feel like it's pretty common that people are biased towards their own...
Not me.
Spawn.
Well, it's evolutionarily like how it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
like
you're
humans are hardwired to really like things with heads that are too big for their bodies.
Right.
That's a consistent trend in like all babies for like all species. And it's also like parents, we have hormonal changes as soon as you deliver that form that bonding and that connection, because especially for humans, just we typically have one child, which of course we can have quadruplets, all that stuff, but typically have one child, and that child is not able to be self-sufficient for a really long time. So you have to trigger all that. And so it's like totally fair whenever people say that. I'm like, don't ask me to gush over how cute your baby is, please.
Do you want to hear a trivia it's gonna be weird, but we're gonna go for it. We've committed. The average number per litter in mammals is about half the number of nipples that they have.
I've heard that before.
Number per.
So for example, goats have 2 nipples. They tend to have 1 kid. Cows will have 4. They tend to have 2 calves. at the same time.
Oh.
Humans have 2 nipples. We tend to have one offspring at a time.
Is that
Wow.
like
That tends to be the litter size of mammals.
right? But like, is that just so each?
I mean, we can
baby
guess,
have
but
a
I wasn't there when nipples
You
were.
gotta have-
one nipple doesn't have a hole. So
You gotta have a well. I mean, like if
You're passing back and forth, you know, like
right, like if you're breastfeeding, my memory of this is it's a long time ago. But Rachel, you can speak, but you don't.
I am breastfeeding. There
Yeah.
it is. Okay.
Just wanted a person to. You know, you switch back and forth because sometimes this one's done and you use this one, so you got to have multiple
backup.
It's a supply and
sources.
demand system.
Gotcha.
Not to mention, think about dogs. They have a ton, but also they're young. They can produce a lot because those young become independent that much faster.
You're
so
right.
you're trying to like maximize your reproductive efficiency there.
I can't wait to go home and tell my veterinarian father this someday.
He's gonna be like,
Dad, did you
yeah.
know? He's like, duh.
You didn't know that? I told you that,
The
Rachel.
first. I'm sorry. Yeah, he's probably like, you should have known this forever.
Rachel, let's. My suggestion is to thank.
This is my show.
Dave. Yeah,
So-
Yeah. So how about you just sit under your blanket and
yeah.
I want to skip the second point,
Okay,
and I would like to move on to the third
that is
activity.
totally,
We can cut
totally
this-
not what I was going to suggest.
It isn't?
Well done. Of course, that was what I was.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Fallon, we're done with you.
that's fine.
Thank
I'm
you,
not-
Fallon,
I'm
we're
done
not.
with it,
Thank you, though, Fallon.
too. You're welcome.
Those are all really good
They were.
questions to toss around. I enjoyed
Yeah,
them.
I'm glad that you like them. Now my 2022-year-old me is
Fulfilled, sated, yes.
and I feel like you asked a lot of questions active at that time too. So good on you for thinking of all these questions
And
At that
not
point.
sending them in.
Yeah, that was my bad.
so that we
Where
could
we-
have this show today.
Right.
It was so
Maybe-
she could manifest talking about them in person.
that
Yeah.
and also it was so that some psychiatrist out there is like, oh, this girl needs some Prozac.
All I'm going to say is if there are any pre-med shortcoat listeners out there and you're too scared to send in your questions, that's okay. Just come to Iowa, come on the podcast
Yes.
and ask them in person. That's
Just get into med school here.
fine. Yeah, no
Less
problem.
scary.
That's like way less hard.
Okay, so on the cup or on the table in that Starbucks cup is some philosophical questions that Dave has come up
Hell
with
yeah.
to consider. Who
I think
wants-
you came up with them.
I came up with them. I am Dave. I came up with them.
I can't
I
do
feel
that,
like I'm
Dave.
listening to like hypnosis. You came up
I
with them.
am Dave.
I came-
Dave is mentally
I
manipulating
had it backwards
me.
and I was like, it's blank. That's okay.
Very philosophical.
Ponder the void. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Jeff, go ahead.
Oh, if you could relive one day of your life indefinitely, like in a time loop,
Whoa.
Oh my god.
which day would you choose and why? Like a Groundhog Day kind of
I
situation?
want to hear what Rachel. Okay, so Rachel, by the way, I made up this game with Rachel in mind because Rachel
These
is
are questions I want to ask Rachel. I have to do it on the podcast.
because Rachel will come into my office and be like, Dave, what is the worst thing you have ever done?
I do that. Yeah. About 3:00 in the afternoon, I come
Yeah.
slumping down the hallway.
So, Dave, what's the worst thing you've ever done?
Yeah.
I've begun to refuse to answer these questions.
This is reasonable.
Well, we've
He's
added
just like,
two
go
people
away.
today.
He's like, go drink some water and go away. Yeah.
What was the one? There was one question. She's like, "How's your relationship with your wife changed?"
I think that's a good question.
Listen, I've been going through some life changes.
That's fair.
Do you feel like when you're like, you've gone through pregnancy, you're breastfeeding now, a lot of people feel like, am I married to this person or am I roommates with this person right now? You know, like a
yeah.
lot of people struggle with that.
I do not feel that way. And I
Good.
do not. A lot of people suffer with resentment of their
Yeah.
partner. I do not feel that way either.
See, my wife can't breastfeed, so I do all the night feeds.
Yeah, it's
and I
nice.
do that so that she loves me. Because
Oh.
I fear being resented.
You're manipulating her.
Oh,
Well,
I
here's the
see.
thing. I put her through a lot by putting a baby in her, and I want her to be happy. So I'm
I
doing
don't
my
like when
best.
people say "put a baby."
Yeah, I
in.
didn't love that one either.
I contributed a little bit of a blueprint,
There. Okay.
and she was the architecture I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do this.
She was
I like that.
She was the general contractor.
Yeah,
Yeah, there we
that's
go.
exactly what that is.
I don't know.
Anyway.
Get out of here. I'm building an eye.
Okay, so Groundhog Day.
Oh, he wants to hear your answer first.
No, it's fine.
No, Dave's like, screw you. I'm thinking about it, but I don't have my answer yet.
I think so I have this conversation with people a lot. If I died today, if I knew I was going to die today, right? I don't think I would have lived my life any differently up to this point.
No.
You know, like if I knew last week, I'm going to die next Friday, I'd probably do pretty much the same thing, you know, because I like the life that I have built for myself.
But
and the reason why I say this is for this question, most days that I've had, and again, everybody has crappy days, and that's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But like most of my days in clinic or with my family or with my friends, like ski days or stuff like that, all of them are days that I feel like if I got to live any one of those indefinitely, I'd be really grateful for it. You know?
Okay. I am going to say that it would have to be, and this is for practically any relationship I've had, the day of the first kiss.
Interesting.
Like the day of.
The day of.
So like the
Or the aftermath. The aftermath.
I think it's the build up for me, but okay.
It is the
Okay.
build-up. I agree.
Fair enough. But sometimes it's
Not even by my face.
unexpected.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's unexpected.
But what if you have an awful first kiss? Like me and Brandon had a terrible first
Well,
kiss.
I'm going with
Can't relate.
relation. Okay. I was going with relation. There was
The second kiss, Fallon.
There
It
was
made up for it.
one kiss that I was like, holy crap, what just happened?
I didn't kiss somebody
Like
for
it-
3 years after my first real kiss.
Damn, Fallon.
That bad, huh?
Really bad.
What do you mean? I feel like that's not
3 years.
unusual. Or maybe it is.
I can't. I
You
say
f***ers.
his name in person. Oh,
Okay,
man.
so I've said mine.
That's great. I would go with no day. If the question is like, would you choose to live a day forever, continue to live on with your life? I would definitely continue to live on with my life. But if that's not the case, I would still say no day. I just think that, I don't know, every day has like good things and bad things, and there's not anything, even like no matter how good, that I don't know. I think memories are precious, and like they should be kept as memories.
That's fair, but also like if I could really relive a day indefinitely, really what I would do is I would do Groundhog. I would go gain all of these like skills over like an eternity,
Oh.
and then start the next day, and I'm like, oh, like I can play the piano just fine, or I can saw somebody's face out of ice blocks. You know, like I would definitely do that.
Yeah, okay.
So you're not living the same day then?
You're living it indefinitely in a time loop. You're the
But
time.
you're
Everybody else
But
is
you're
the
able
same.
to you're able to
Have you seen Groundhog Day?
No.
Okay. Everybody
neither.
else is living the exact same day. They don't remember it.
That's
You
horrific.
know that you're going. That was the reason.
and at
that's the point
first
of the
it
movie.
is horrific in the
Yeah.
movie.
I watch this movie every year on Groundhog Day because the whole point of the movie is like at first he resents it, and then he's doing like hedonistic, selfish things, right? And then he gets to the point where he just kind of wants to end it all, so he keeps trying to end himself, but it doesn't work. He just keeps waking up the next day, and finally he gets to the point where he accepts that this is an opportunity to better himself. He may as well make the most of the time that he's given, and that's the point of the film: is that he has this infinite loop to make the most of his life. And he does. And then that's when he breaks the cycle, is when he finally embraces that you just have to make the most of it.
Jeff, you have an OSCE in 6 minutes, so let's go on to the.
yeah.
I suggest Rachel that we go on to the next
Next question.
question.
I definitely studied for it too.
Okay. Taryn.
Yes. So, if consciousness could be uploaded to a computer, would you choose digital immortality over a finite biological life?
Okay, let's try to get through 2 more questions so we rapid fire this. We
Okay.
don't think
Finite
too hard.
biology.
I'm going to
Do
say
not
no,
think
I
too
don't
hard.
like it.
Okay.
No.
I don't know.
Okay.
Rachel?
Honest to God, I didn't hear the question. What was it?
If you could like upload your consciousness to a computer, would you choose to do digital immortality over a finite biological life?
I don't even know what that means.
Like, would you?
Like you could live in a computer. You could live in a simulation forever.
Okay.
As opposed to you knowing, hey, I'm human. I'm going to leave this earth someday.
Oh, finite biological life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. If you could learn the absolute truth to one question, what question would you ask?
Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
A classic. What happens after you die?
Okay. Ooh. Because that would be a tough one to learn that nothing happens after you die.
Well,
yeah, but then you know.
But then you know. Yeah.
It's not like you haven't thought about that before as an option.
Would it be freeing? It might be freeing.
Yeah, a lot of people think it is freeing.
Yeah.
I would probably, and this is like such a stupid answer, but I would want to know what is the thing that I could do that would have the most positive impact on the world.
Ooh.
I want to know for sure I'm on the right path to doing good in the world.
Yeah,
you know?
okay. That's a good one.
That's
it's hard to guess, you know?
That's a good one. Yeah, because a lot of things that you decide to do could have effects that aren't great, even if your intent was good. So it would be helpful to know ahead of time.
Yeah.
I just want to know that, like, everything's going to be okay.
What if the absolute truth is not that?
Well, I want a specific answer, but...
Oh, okay. So not the absolute truth.
No, not to that.
I want absolutely
Tell me what I want to hear.
That's like my daughter, when she was like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years old, was like, we try to correct her or try to say, oh, no, you don't say that. And she would say, don't tell me the truth.
Okay, Fallon, go.
Do you believe aging is a disease that should be cured? Why or why not? I'd have to go with no. Well, unless we're talking about bodily aging, and I think that we should just make it gentler for people. Like, I just hope that technology increases, but I don't think that we should stop aging. Okay.
Well, I mean, so I think we are talking about physical aging.
Yeah.
Okay.
In which case, I would say it would be great to get to the point where you didn't age until it was your time to die.
Ooh,
so like
I like that.
You were like 27 until you're like 90, and then in 1 week you just like...
Yeah, I'd be down with
Fast
that.
forward.
I'd be down with that.
Like Dave has really deteriorated over the last week.
It's
been a rough week, Dave.
It's true.
Shit, Dave, what happened?
It's true. I started out this week with a perfectly healthy body, and now I need hip replacements. That's not true.
You won't need hip replacements because you're going to die in the next week. Sorry,
Whoa,
wow,
okay.
I feel like we're really this really became very Final Destination-y.
If this episode isn't released, everybody knows why.
This became a weird episode.
I would say disease.
Rachel doesn't know it yet, but I'm also assigning her the editing duties.
Oh, nice. I would like to cure
It's never
aging.
coming out.
Most diseases that we're fighting today are just diseases of aging, right? And I think it's entirely reasonable to say that heart disease, cancer,
Cell aging, and
osteoporosis, Alzheimer's,
but
all of these
also
happen because you age. It's lifestyle, but it's lifestyle after you get old.
Yeah,
right?
because your body can tolerate a certain lifestyle, even if it's not the best.
But even like super healthy
when
people
you're young
can have.
Well, in my mind, it's like a difference. Are we talking about like cosmetic aging versus like physiological, how I'm going about my functionality? Because do I think we should be like trying to make everybody look like they're 18 again? No, but
I was cute when I was 18.
it's more of like
I didn't know it.
Let me just put it. I'm like, that's a psychiatry problem because that's about somebody's mental health and like well-being and like their perception of themselves. But treating aging as a medical condition, whenever I hear that, I think of like joint degeneration, the increased likelihood of cancer, aberrant growths, organ failure, Alzheimer's. Yeah, just kind of like general deterioration in those things, which I think, we definitely need to work to ease that because it makes aging difficult and painful.
Yeah, that's
it's
fair.
like most people that you know who are like, oh yeah, like I've had a good life, like I'm ready to go, and that are not all, but a majority of people that I've encountered, they're like, yeah, I'm like comfortable and ready with going. They're people who have physically been able to live their life to the fullest up until that point. Whereas if somebody has had all these chronic issues, they hit that point and they're just like, I just want this suffering to end. Like, that's not happy.
On the subject of suffering ending, I'm going to sneak out, but
Good luck.
Ow!
And on that note,
Good luck with your OSCE.
yeah. Dave looked like Freddie Prinze Jr. when he was 18.
Oh my god!
You should have him show you a picture.
Yeah.
He looked like
Scooby-Doo on Spooky Island.
Exactly, Fallon. That's exactly what it is. What Dave is.
Telling you.
Wow.
Well, that's our show. Jeff, Taryn, Fallon, Dave, me. Thanks for being part of it. And what
thanks
kind?
for
so
having us,
welcome.
Rachel.
Aw.
Thank you for hosting.
You are so welcome.
It was so fun.
Probably going to happen again. Okay.
Listen, I'm not done. And what kind of horror would it be if I didn't thank you, Shortcoats, for making us part of your week? If you're new here and you like what you heard today, follow the show wherever you find podcasts are available, like Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Go rate and review. Google Podcasts, and YouTube. This show is made possible by a generous donation by the Carver College of Medicine student government and ongoing support for the Writing and Humanities program. Our music is by Dr. Vox and Catmosphere. I'm Rachel saying, don't let the bastards get you down. Talk to you in a week.
Yay!
I feel like
Hi, Shortcoats. Look, life in medical education, life in America, life in the world is often difficult. And I often wish I could help. All I have is this podcast, but in my wildest dreams, you have the support you need to lead a life of your choosing. You deserve to be happy, healthy, and successful in whatever ways you define those words. So if you need support because you've experienced racism, discrimination, harassment, mental health crises, I want you to be able to get the help that you need. And so I'm going to put some links in the show notes to some resources that you can use. But the bottom line is that for what it's worth, I see you. I know you're out there. I wish I could do more. Maybe I can in ways that I don't understand yet or know about. But I see you, and I'm glad you're here, and other people are too. This Shortcoat podcast is a proud member of the MedEd Media Network. Inspiration, information, and guidance on your journey to medical school and beyond at mededmedia.com.